who can read Gita Sanskrit properly. Read the first chapter, then you can read the Papa's commentary on first chapter. Gita Sandesh. We shall read English original first, Sanskrit original first.
Should I read the whole chapter first?
Yes, from the beginning, Prathanas.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre Samaveta Mamaka Pandavaschaiva Kimakurvata Sanjaya. Sanjaya Uvacha, Drishtva tu Pandavanikam Yodham Duryodhanastada Acharyamapasangamya Raja Vachanamadhari Pashyaitam Pandaputranam Acharyamahatim Chamum Yodham Drupadaputreena Tava Sishyena Dhimata Atra Shura Maheshvasa Dhimajna Samayugi Yudhano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharataha Krishtaketuscha Kasi Rajascha Viryavan Purujit Kuntibhojascha Shaivyascha Narapungavaha Yudhamanyascha Vikranta Uttamaujaschcha Viryavan Sauhatro Draupadeyascha Sarvayeva Maharathaha Asmakam tu Visishtaye Tani Bodhatrichottama Nayaka Mama Sainyasya Samyartham Tan Ravimite Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Bhupascha Samitinjayaha Ashwathama Vikarnascha Saumadakshistadhaivacha Anye cha Bhavashura Madakhe Tyaktajiritaha Nana Shastra Praharanaha Sarve Yuddha Visharadaha Aparyaptam Tadasmakam Balam Bhishma Virakshitam Paryaptam Tidamete Sham Balam Dhima Virakshitam Ayaneshu cha Sarveshu Yatha Bhagamavasthitaha Bhishmameva Virakshantu Bhavam Tassarvaeva Hi Tasya Sanjanayan Harsham Kururuddha Pitamaha Simhanadam Vinadyochai Shankam Dadmau Pratapavan Tatah Shankascha Dhairyascha Panavanatago Mukhaha Sahasaiva Prihanyanta Sashaktastu Mulo Bhavatu Tatah Shvete Dhayaryukte Mahatisyandane Sthitau Madhavah Pandavaschaiva Divyau Shankau Pradadmatuhu Panchajanyam Rishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayaha Pangam Dadmau Mahashankham Bhimakarma Dupodayah Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthiraha Nakulas Sahadevascha Suhoshamani Pushpako Kastyascha Karneshvasah Shikanji cha Maharataha Drishtadyumno Viratascha Satyakischa Parajitaha Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvashah Prithivipate Saubhadrascha Mahabaho Shankan Dadmuh Prithak Prithak Sabhosho Dhartarashtanam Hridayane Vyadarayat Nabhascha Prithivim Chaiva Tumulo Gyanadayan Atha Vyavasthitan Drishtva Dhartarashtan Kapithvajaha Pravrutte Shastra Sampate Dhanurudyamya Pandavaha Rishikesham Tadavakya Vidamahamahi Senayor Madhye Ratham Sthapayanechyuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yodhupamanavasthitan Kaimaya Sahayodhavyam Asmin Ratamudyame Yotsyamana Niriksheham Te Etetra Samagataha Dhartarashtrasya Durbuddhe Yudhe Priyachikirshavaha Sanjaya Uvacha Evamukto Rishikesho Gudakeshena Bharata Senayor Madhye Sthapayitva Rathottamam Bhishmadrona Pramukatah Sarveshan Jamahikshitaam Uvacha Partha Pashyaitan Samavetan Kuruniti Tatra Pashyasthitan Partha Pitruna Kapitamahan Acharyan Matulan Bhatrun Putran Pautran Sakim Stata Shvashuran Suhrudaschaiva Senayor Ubhayorapi तान् समीक्ष्य स कौन्तेयः सर्वान् बन्धूनवस्थितान् कृपया परयाविष्टो विषीदन्निदमब्रवीत्। अर्जुन उवाच दृष्ट्वेमं स्वजनं कृष्णायुयुत्सुं समुपस्थितं सीदन्ति मम गात्राणि मुखं च परिशुष्यति वेपतुश्च शरीरे मे रोमहर्षश्च जायते गाण्डीवं स्रंसते हस्तात् वक्चैव परिदह्यते न च शक्नोम्यवस्थातुं भ्रमतीव च मे मनः निमित्तानि च पश्यामि विपरीतानि केशव न च श्रेयोऽनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनमाहवे न काङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्ण न च राज्यं सुखानि च किं नो राज्येन गोविन्द किं भोगैर्जीवितेन वा येषामध्ये काङ्क्षितं नो राज्यं भोगाः सुखानि च सैमेव स्थिता युद्धे प्राणां त्यक्त्वा धनानि च आचार्याः पितरः पुत्राः सखैव च पितामहः मातुलः श्वशुराः पौत्राः श्यालाः सम्बन्धिनस्तथा एतानहं तुमिच्छामि घ्नतोऽपि मधुसूदन अपि राज्यस्य हेतोः किं नु मही कृते निहत्य धार्तराष्ट्रान् नहता प्रीतस्यार्चनार्चना पापमेवाश्रयेदस्मान् हत्वैतानाततायिनः तस्मात् वयं हन्तुं धार्तराष्ट्रान् स्वबान्धवान् स्वजनं हि कथं हत्वा सुखिनः स्याम माधव यद्यप्येते न पश्यन्ति लोभोपहतचेतसः कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं मित्रद्रोहे च पातकं कथं न ज्ञेयमस्माभिः पापादस्मान् निवर्तितुं कुलक्षयकृतं दोषं प्रपश्यद्भिर्जनार्दन कुलक्षये प्रणश्यन्ति कुलधर्माः सनातनाः धर्मे नष्टे कुलं कृत्स्नामधर्मो विभवत्युत अधर्मा विभवात् कृष्णा प्रदुष्यन्ति कुलस्त्रियः स्त्रीषु दुष्टाशु वार्ष्णेया जायते वर्णसङ्करः सङ्करो नरकायैव कुलज्ञानां कुलस्य च अतन्ति पितरो ह्येषां लुप्तपिण्डोदकक्रियाः दोषैरेतैः कुलज्ञानां वर्णसङ्करकारकैः उत्साद्यन्ते जातिधर्मा कुलधर्माश्च शाश्वताः उत्सन्नकुलधर्माणां मनुष्याणां जनार्दन नरके नियतं वासो भवतीत्यनुशुश्रुम अहो बत महत्पापं कर्तुं व्यवसिता वयं यद्राज्यसुखलोभेन हन्तुं स्वजनमुद्यताः यदि मामप्रतीकारं शस्त्रं शस्त्रपाणयः धार्तराष्ट्रावनेहन्युः तन्मे क्षेमतरं भवेत्। सञ्जय उवाच एवमुक्त्वार्जुनस्सङ्ख्ये रथोपस्थ उपाविशत् विसृज्य सरं चापं शोकसंविघ्नमानसः। ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे अर्जुनविषादयोगो नाम प्रथमोऽध्यायः। ॐ श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।
You can't read that. First chapter. We can take this here.
The Gita Sandesh by Swami Ramdas, Chapter 1, Moha or Attachment. The Bhagavad Gita holds forth before mankind the highest and the loftiest ideal, by attaining which the soul is liberated from all limitations and enjoys the peace and bliss of his inherent state of immortality. The first discourse of the Gita speaks of one of the great obstacles that confronts the struggling soul in his effort to realize this blessed state of supreme freedom. Now, what is the malady that has possessed the soul, which has made his life cramped, narrow, and limited, bringing to it a sense of helplessness and oftentimes utter despair? It is moha, or attachment arising from the individual sense of I in relation to the body, and therefrom to the bodies of those near and dear to him by the ties of blood or friendship or material obligations. This moha causes the mind of man as a result of its narrow vision, to remove in a limited circle, identifying itself with the interests of this circle. In this condition, the vision of man, starting from his individual center, radiates only within this circle and gets so much absorbed in it that the humanity and the world outside it are considered entirely separate and foreign to it. It is within the experience of every human being who has spent some thought on the mysteries of life that life lived in this limited vision is a constant source of fear and sorrow. He further knows that the more is this vision expanded, the greater is his freedom and the higher is his joy. He feels that he is imprisoned within the fortress walls raised all round him by his ego. And although he knows that his freedom lies in breaking down these walls, his attempts at such a task prove futile, as he is conscious that moha has enfeebled him and made him unequal to it. It is this moha that has weakened the strong, altruistic purpose which fired the bosom of Arjuna to stand up and fight on the battlefield. Similarly, it is this moha that arrests the march of the aspiring soul when he strives for a wider vision of life and the resultant action. Man gets through moha so helplessly entangled and caught in the grip of selfishness, greed, and lust, thus acting and living solely for himself and his kith and kin, that the wider view of life is shut out from him, and the great purpose for which he exists is either denied or forgotten by him. As with Arjuna, so with everyone who strives for liberation. It is a conflict between the aspiration for the vaster vision and the crystallized selfishness of an individualistic view of life. Arjuna proposes to abandon the task of a vast and world importance, which was inspired by an extensive vision and for which he was born and in every respect fitted and prepared. Being now subdued by the ephemeral interest and concern of his lower human nature. It is the impulse of an egoistic view of life that enveloped and conquered the greater vision and its action. What was the outcome or effect of such a degrading impulse on him? This is made clear by his own words, that he felt weak, helpless, unmanned, and in every way stricken down with fear, doubt, and despair. This is the work of moha, and it is perfectly clear that moha is the arch enemy that destroys the natural peace, joy, and freedom of a human being. Moha has its own ways of defense against the development of the higher and expanded vision. Through plausible arguments, it seeks to prove that a life fully tinctured with moha is the real life, and that to transform such a life into a greater one would be undesirable and sinful. There is many an earnest aspirant for perfect liberation who knows well that moha is the cause of his bondage, and the sooner he is freed from its clutches, the better it is for him. But how is he to escape its hold when it has so strongly seized him and he feels weak and vanquished by it? He cries out for a life of infinite vision and utter freedom and immortal joy. His condition is similar to that of a bird of the woods, struggling hard to be free from the cage in which it is imprisoned. Moha vitiates the intellect, poisons the springs of emotion, and renders the will impotent. In short, moha totally throws the soul into darkness and delusion, casting on him a magic spell that makes him entirely oblivious of his exalted, free, eternal, all-blissful, divine nature. The soul thus captured and subdued, living and acting in ignorance, experiences nothing but a round of anxiety, grief, perplexity, and fear. Arjuna, the ideal warrior, whose mission in life was to fight for the sake of justice and righteousness, refuses to perform the God-appointed task on the eve of a momentous crisis. The erstwhile intrepid, noble, and high-souled hero is now crushed down by the dreadful thought that, by killing his dear kinsmen and revered elders, he was committing a horrible sin. We have heard the term, the devil quoting scriptures. Here we find Moha citing scriptural injunctions, inducing Arjuna to declare that to fight even in a righteous war would involve him in sin, while, in fact, real sin consists in performing or rejecting actions through Moha, born of the ego sense. Truly, ego is the root of all sins, and Moha is its deadly weapon, and misery and confusion are what they jointly produce. The succeeding discourses of the Gita gradually develop a system of thought and discipline, by following which Sri Krishna, with all the authority of a God incarnate, definitely asserts that man can conquer this ego and Moha and attain the inexpressible supreme status of the Godhead. That is a state of perfect liberation, peace, and bliss, and still be active in the affairs of the world.
Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. We now read the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, and also our beloved Prabhupada's commentary on that chapter. The first chapter of the Gita gives the reason why Lord Krishna had to teach Arjuna and the occasion for it. Arjuna, all of you know, was a great warrior, the most famous warrior in those days. He had never seen defeat anywhere. On the other hand, he had, by his austerities, obtained many celestial weapons and had even fought with Lord Shiva himself and won the fight. As a result, he got some celestial weapons from Lord Shiva also. Such a great warrior had to face his enemies, who were none but his cousins. We need not go into detail why the fight was found necessary, but it was found necessary, and the Pandava brothers had no other way but to fight. And it was so that as Lord Krishna was also on their side, there was no question of any defeat. In spite of such daring courage and the assurance that success was sure for them, when Arjuna came to the battlefield and saw before him the huge army of the enemy side as well as his side, he looked at the enemy side of the army all the Kauravas. There he found, though he knew who would be on the other side, when he actually saw them, he was overpowered by emotion. He saw among them all his cousins, all his acharyas, all his relations, everybody so closely connected with him that he was completely unnerved to take any action against them. Simply he was unnerved and started even perspiring. His hands started shivering and he told Krishna, who was his charioteer, that he was in such a desperate state that he didn't want to fight at all. He felt that by killing all those who were standing opposite him, or his cousins, or his acharyas, or his other relations, by killing them, he was not going to gain anything. On the other hand, he was going to incur a lot of sin. And here he started quoting a number of scriptures. Instead of seeking advice from Krishna straight away, he started quoting from the scriptures about the damages or serious things that were going to happen as a result of the war which he was to fight. So he said he should refrain himself from the war and take to the path of renunciation. This was not seeking advice but asserting his opinion. Finally he decided to drop his bow and arrow and said, Krishna, I cannot fight. This continued for some time and then became completely helpless. He asked for Krishna's advice. Krishna was smiling all the time and wanted to lift him up from this mood of depression. He straight away asked him, what are you talking, Arjuna? Are you a man? You are not taking like a man. You are not only a man, you are a great warrior. This is not the way you should behave. You are now overpowered by moha, the greatest enemy of man. Now get rid of it. You are now under the delusion that you are the body and all others that you see before you are mere bodies. You also feel that by engaging in the war, you are going to kill all of them. That you are going to kill all of them. This is absolutely wrong. You must know that it is, of course this comes under the teachings afterwards. First he starts with saying that you must know first of all what you are. You are neither the killer nor the others are the killed. By fighting in the war, only the bodies are being disturbed and not the real men, real ones. Understand this truth and get over this moha. Then the real teaching begins. This is the predicament of everyone in the world. Gita was uttered not merely for Arjuna. Arjuna met with such a situation at that time, so many years ago. But that is equally applicable and is happening to everyone now also. We can imagine, we meet with certain situations, we find it so difficult to get out of them. We become completely unnerved, though we may possess great strength in many other aspects. But when such situations arise, we are not able to face the situation bravely. We try to retreat and say, oh, I don't want to all this, I don't want to engage myself in all these things. It gives me great pain, it will lead me to sin, so on and so forth. It is the Gita teachings not only help us to advance on the path leading to God, but also to lead a happy, successful and peaceful life in this world, let alone the higher aspect of life. Even for ordinary man, without any idea of attaining God, without any aspiration for attaining God, if he learns the teachings of Gita and tries to put them into practice, he will be able to live his life very happily, very peacefully and successfully. As it is mentioned here, the main cause of all our problems is our moving in a small circle created by our ego sense. If this circle is widened, all the problems will be solved. In other words, we must know what we are, what is our connection with the world, what the world is, and what is our goal in life. If these points are understood, we will be able to go beyond our body consciousness and experience that we are the all-pervading Atman. We are the all-pervading Atman, as also all other living beings that we see before us. First, if this thing is understood, most of the problems are solved. When we meet somebody, we will be able to meet him not as a separate entity, but as one with us in spirit. So, our attitude towards him will be full of love and affection. Not a tinge of dislike or hatred will be there. We will be able to serve him with that attitude. If such an attitude is developed and we are able to carry on with that attitude, what a wonderful life we will be having. We will be full of peace and happiness. and will be radiating that peace and happiness to everybody else. When we have this attitude, and when we accept that all others are ourselves in different forms, or we are all one in spirit, we may not expect from them anything in return for the love we shower on them, because the love we give them is coming from us spontaneously. So, our dealings with others will be full of love and affection, and as such we will make everybody happy, making our life also happy that way. Now if this happens with everybody, the whole world will be heaven on earth. The first chapter of the Gita is an introduction to Gita, as it were, and in some what do you call those who have written commentary on the Gita have actually ignored the first chapter. They don't consider it as important because Gita teachings really begin from the second chapter. But we have to admit that Vyasa must have had some reason to include this also. As for the beginning of Gita's teachings, there must be some reason. Simply one cannot go on giving this advice unless Arjuna was depressed. Krishna would not have tried to lift him up from that mood. So this chapter was necessary as a prelude to the Gita. Now from the second chapter mainly the Gita teachings begin. In various ways Gita teaches us how to lead the real life in this world and how that life will help us to go and reach the supreme goal of human life. Now having learned to love each other, knowing that we are all one in spirit, we must make use of our life for the highest attainment. Various ways are shown in the Gita to develop the path of bhakti, path of jnana, and walk on the path of karma, and so on. These are gradually explained in the future chapters. Gita is not applicable only to people of a particular country or a particular time. It is universal and can be taught and practiced by anybody everywhere. And it is absolutely necessary that they should follow or practice the teachings of the Gita so that their life may be lived purposely and usefully. Gita need not even be considered a religious text. It is something that will help us in our daily life. It is giving some guidelines in our life for right living. There is an organization called the Art of Living. Nowadays becoming more popular. Gita teaches us not only the art of living now, but to take us to the supreme goal also, to stop the cycle of birth and death also. So it is something going beyond the art of living here. Tomorrow we will read the second chapter, which is very important in the Bhagavad Gita. It is also said that the second chapter is almost the complete Gita. It contains everything. It starts with the advice to Arjuna, asking to wake up from the slumber and face the battle. There are many commentaries on the Gita. Some take it as giving importance to devotion. Some take it as giving importance to jnana. And some others consider it as giving importance to karma yoga. And Arjuna was advised to fight. That is considered as karma yoga. But that fighting was merely fighting on the lower plane. Is fighting with the full knowledge. So we must live in the world with the full knowledge of what we really are and what our goal is.
Man is called taker when he eats, sleeps, drinks without thinking of God. And when a man is embedded in moha, he is regarded as blind, who never thinks of God. I come across one man in Madras who got some 5 acres of land and old age home, but board is put as old age home, but rearing chickens. I want to bring such man to ashram and make him to think of God. Is it possible, sir?
It is possible if God so wills. God will be there, God must will to change him. Then he will be prompted to persuade him to come and know something about real life. But he cannot force these matters. God has to prompt him also from within. We cannot say everybody is blind all the life. There is a time when they are awakened to the reality. Their life completely changes after that.
This is the wording of Swami Ch-1. In his book he has written this. Blindness,
What?
if he is embedded in moha,
That's all right.
when a man is dead, when he eats, sleeps and thinks,
That's all right.
never think of God.
Even in that condition, he can be awakened to the reality and his life can be changed by God's grace. Suppose suddenly he comes in contact with a saint. That influence awakens in him the reality. He will regret his earlier life and will try to transform his life.
We have got the example of Valmiki.
Yes, so many examples. Many people have changed. In fact, we can also say, suppose a man is leading a fairly so-called good life with devotion to God, with his daily prayers, for some 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, has been doing almost the same thing. He's a very good man, he is considered very religious. And there was another man who was a pakka scoundrel, who had all the voices in his life. And he was hated by others. Such a man was found suddenly changed when something happened in his life. Say sudden accident, or sudden shock, or come in contact with a saint. Something suddenly happened, and from next moment he was entirely a changed man. He was very silent for some time, and afterwards they realized his life was completely changed. He has taken to the path of devotion. Started going to temples, started going to saints for their advice, started doing sadhana. Such transformation can come suddenly, unexpectedly. So we cannot imagine when a man can change. By seeing a man who is immersed in worldliness, who is drunk always, who is doing all these bad things, we have no reason to condemn him. You should not condemn him. He can be transformed any time if God so wills. Of course, to say if God so wills, there must be something which he must have done in his previous birth also. And certain bad things worked out in the beginning, and when the good things were to come out, he got it changed by the contact of a saint. So such sudden transformation is possible. As he said in the case of Valmiki, he was a robber, he was a murderer, he was committing all sorts of sins. Yet, when says Narada gave him some advice, he was changed, completely changed. And you saw the case of in Chaitanya's life, two ruffians who were menace to humanity, two stones, Swami Nityananda, the disciple of Chaitanya, and Nityananda, instead of finding fault with him, went and embraced him. And that changed both of them completely. They became the disciples of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is all possible, and we should not condemn them for their weaknesses. We can help them if it is possible.
But not approachable. Sir. Such people.
Not
Difficult to approach such people and convince.
It's all right, God will take care of them. As in the case of our Papa also, in 1000 Kasaragod ashram, somebody came and reported that a ruffian was coming to the ashram and he should not be permitted. He was a very bad man and he will pollute the ashram atmosphere if permitted to come inside. Papa heard this and felt there cannot be any person like that. Anyway, he waited for that man. When he entered the ashram, he was asked to come inside. As soon as he entered the ashram, Papa embraced him. Papa embraced him actually, with all love and affection. That man was completely stunned. He expected some, antagonistic view from Papa. Instead of that, he received such a favorable, such a welcome reception that he was overpowered by the love Papa gave, showered on him. And as soon as Papa left him, he just fell at Papa's feet and started sobbing. Then he got up and said, I am a sinner, I am a sinner. How did you embrace me? Did I deserve all this? Papa consoled him, said, you are wrong, you are wrong. Then his life completely changed. Such changes are possible and have taken place. If, on the other hand, Papa did not give him love and asked somebody to push him out of the gate, his condition would have been worse. There was no transformation possible. That is why saints are so tolerant. They conquer hate by their love.
Papa's light was so great that he could remove the darkness from everyone. But in our cases, shouldn't we be careful? Because darkness can overpower us sometimes, no?
Our effort must be to reach that stage.
Yes.
That's all we should do. Not to imitate his ways. When we reach that stage, automatically things happen without effort. Many people here, or some of the devotees here, started doing as Mataji was doing. She would say suppose some things came here and she would distribute to others. She wanted to do it herself. Her attitude in giving was, she was giving to Papa himself as an offering. You must watch her doing it. You must have seen her doing that. Her facial expression in taking that item and offering to the other person was so enjoyable to see. And some devotees wanted to do the same. And when they did it, if they had that much love and that vision, it would have been different. But they took it as a duty or something to be done. They took it and just like that. Then Mataji used to remark, they wanted to do as I did. But how can they do it until they reach that stage, until they get that vision? So our effort must be not to do as they did, but to reach that stage they had reached, and then things will happen. What they did was not by any effort. It was spontaneous in their case. As one instance, there was a function here, as we had yesterday. The feeding used to be in the kitchen, which is now present Shantinivas. Feeding. About 800,000 people were fed. It was a very small kitchen, only this much space. So the feeding would start by 12 o'clock and would go on till 4 or 5 o'clock. Small batches. Some volunteers were there to let people in and serve them. At about 4 o'clock when Mataji went to the kitchen, we found there were some arguments going on between 2 or 3 people. What's the matter? Why should you shout like this? Then somebody said, one volunteer said, this man had his food at 12 o'clock, the first batch. Now he is coming again for food. So I stopped him. He was right in his decision. Then Mataji's question was, he came again because he was angry. You are here to feed angry persons. So there's no right for you to stop him. That is the way they look at things. So they see the difference between the wider vision and the smaller vision. They cannot but behave like that. And people in a small circle cannot but behave that way until they break that circle. I think I'll stop now. Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. 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 Om Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram.
Anybody very